Hello everyone, welcome to the channel Data Science with Harshit. I hope you are all enjoying the festivities in these unprecedented times, in whichever way you can, following all the regulations, hopefully. But this reminds us that we are already in the last month of this dark year, and hopefully things are going to get better with the vaccines coming out. But November is over, and I have come across a good list of research papers, books, blog posts, data sets that I want to share with you. So here's what we are going to cover in November's AI Monthly. So, firstly, I will be sharing with you two very interesting pieces of news that have just come out, very recent. So, first one comes from DeepMind. Now, their latest version of the AI system, which is called AlphaFold, it has been recognized as a solution to figuring out the shape of protein structure in 3D, and it's a breakthrough in biology, which is basically solving a 50-year-old grand challenge. And the second one comes from TensorFlow. Now, TensorFlow users on Intel-based Macs or Macs powered by the new M1 chips can now take advantage of accelerated training using the Apple's Mac optimized version of TensorFlow, which is 2.4, and the new ML compute framework. Then we're going to go over two interesting data sets that I have come across. So I basically subscribe or keep reading the Google's AI blog. So I came across the Objectron data set by Google Research. It's a collection of short object-centric video clips capturing a larger set of common objects from different angles. And then the second data set is the MNIST dataset, which is a collection of 10 pre-processed medical image datasets, and they have this Creative Commons license as well. And in the last half of this video, I'm going to share with you what I am learning, which books I am following to learn new concepts, learn new techniques in the deep learning world, as well as in ML ops, other things that I am creating. So, second thing is I've also come across two very interesting state-of-the-art research papers that you should definitely check out. One is from Jeff Dean, who is working as a researcher in the Google research team. So, without any further ado, let's deep dive into each one of these resources. So let's first talk about the biggest revelation or the biggest news item that has just come in. So yesterday we had this blog published by DeepMind, and AlphaFold, which is their AI system, has been recognized as a solution to protein folding problem, which has been a 50-year-old grand challenge in biology. Now, we know that proteins are essential to life and supporting practically all of its functionality. But what are proteins? So, they are large complex molecules made up of chains of amino acids, and the functionality of a protein largely depends on its unique 3D structure. Now, figuring out what shapes proteins fold into is known as the protein folding problem, which is defined here as well by the AlphaFold team. Now, it's been there as a grand challenge for the past 50 years, and this year, in a major breakthrough, AlphaFold has been recognized as a solution to the grand challenge by the organizers of the biennial program called Critical Assessment of Protein Structure Prediction, which is basically the full form of CASP, and it's organized by the Protein Structure Prediction Center. Now, the AlphaFold team first entered this CASP 13 in 2018 with an initial version of AlphaFold, and they achieved the highest accuracy among participants. Now, afterwards, they published a paper on the CASP13 methods in Nature with associated code, which has gone on to inspire other work and community developed open source implementations. And this year they went with new deep learning architectures that brought about changes in the methods for CASP14, enabling them to achieve unparalleled levels of accuracy. Now, these methods draw inspiration from the fields of biology, physics, and machine learning, as well as, of course, the work of many of the scientists who were there working in this particular field for the past half century. Now, what can be the possible impact of this breakthrough? So the team has observed that this structure prediction of a protein could be useful in future pandemic response efforts, as one of the many tools developed by the scientific community. So earlier this year, they predicted several protein structures for the SARS-CoV-2, which is the coronavirus, which included ORF3A, and whose protein structure was previously known. At Cas14, they predicted the structure of another coronavirus protein, which was ORF8, and impressively quick work by the experimentalist has now confirmed that both of these structures are quite accurate when they were actually compared with the experimentally determined structures. So this would change the dynamics of research in biology, and it is definitely a breakthrough, and experts believe that this has occurred decades before many people in the field would have predicted. And it will be exciting to see how the whole dynamics of the biological research programs turn into, because this is going to fast track research across many fields, be it discovering a treatment program for a disease, or be it figuring out the enzymes that can break down industrial waste. So the team is working on writing the paper for this work, and until then they are calling it high accuracy protein structure prediction using deep learning, if you want to cite the work anywhere. So let's wait for the research paper, and we'll have a detailed video as well once it's out. Now, the next news is for people who are using Macs to train their TensorFlow models. So we now have the Apple's Mac optimized version of TensorFlow 2.4 and the new ML compute framework. So we all know that MacBook is the most preferred platform for developers, engineers, and researchers. So with Apple's announcement in November featuring an updated lineup of Macs that contain the new M1 chip. Now, Apple's Mac optimized version of TensorFlow 2.4 leverages the full power of the Mac with a huge jump in performance. And this can be seen in these graphics as well, where they have tested out some very common and popular machine learning models, and they have tested out what's the difference. So you can see the gray bar over here. The gray bar is for TensorFlow 2.3, tested on the new 2020 MacBook with Intel chip, and the yellow one is the new MacBook 2020 but with an Intel chip, and the red ones are the new M1 powered MacBook Pro that were released in 2020. So you can see that the y-axis basically the seconds per batch. So the M1 chip MacBooks are taking the lowest amount of time to run and train the models. So that can be seen for MacBook Pro 13-inch, and for other MacBook Pro, which is basically the 2019 model, you can see the performance has really increased. There's like significant decrease in the amount of time that these new ML compute framework and the accelerated TensorFlow 2.4 is showing on the 2019 MacBook Pro with an Intel chip. Then now to get started with the new accelerated TensorFlow, all you need to do is head over to the Apple's GitHub repository. So you don't need to make any changes to your existing projects or any of the scripts to use this ML Compute framework. All you need to do is just come here on the Apple's GitHub repository for the installation instructions and prerequisites. From there, you just simply need to install the Mac optimized TensorFlow 2.4. They have given this command over here, and you are done. So they are saying that they will be making these updates easier, and in the near future you should be able to get them from the TensorFlow master branch as well. If you want to learn more about the ML Compute framework, they have covered this in detail from Apple's machine learning website. So yeah, you can learn more about what changes they have made from here. So I keep reading the Google AI blog, and they keep publishing really cool articles. The research teams, what they are doing, I get to monitor the technology space, the deep learning space, what is going around, what the teams are working on, what's new coming out. So this time around, I shortlisted 2 data sets that I found out pretty interesting and intriguing. And machine learning today has achieved such exceptional accuracy on many computer vision tasks solely by training models on photos, that is 2D images. And earlier this year, Google AI, also the research team, basically they released MediaPipe Objectron. So this was released, and which is basically a set of real-time 3D object detection pipeline that's designed for mobile devices, and these were trained on a fully annotated real-world 3D dataset that can predict objects' 3D bounding boxes. Now, interesting thing was that this pipeline detects objects in 2D images and then tries to estimate the poses and the sizes through machine learning models. Now, understanding objects in 3D remains a challenge up until this day, and Google AI, the research team, they realized that the community actually needs more 3D datasets, video datasets, which would explain or capture more of the 3D structure of a particular object. And thus they released the Objectron dataset, and it's basically a collection of short object-centric video clips capturing a larger set of common objects from different angles, as you can see in this GIF, a set of GIFs that are there. And each video clip is accompanied by augmented reality session metadata that includes camera poses and sparse point clouds. Now, the data also contains manually annotated 3D bounding boxes for each object, as you can see here, and which basically describes the object position, orientation, and dimensions. So the dataset contains 15,000 annotated video clips, supplemented with over 4 million annotated images collected from a geodiverse sample. So if I had to give you like key features, so the key features would include 15,000 annotated videos, of course, and 4 million annotated images that you get in this dataset. Then all of the images are high res, object pose, camera pose, point cloud, and surface planes to exploit all sorts of angles. Then we have ready to use examples in various TensorFlow record formats, which can be used in TensorFlow or PyTorch. Then we have object-centric multi-views, observing the same object in different angles. And at last, we have accurate evaluation metrics like 3D IOU for oriented 3D bounding boxes. So if you want to get started with it, so they have this whole repository dedicated to this particular dataset, Objectron, and there are some getting started tutorials as well that you can check out. So these are pretty interesting. You'll get to learn, try to first write it down line by line, try to understand what each line would actually mean, and try to reproduce all of this, and then try to play around with it, see what happens if you change something, manipulate some parameters, and then train the model yourself. See what changes if you were able to reproduce this or not, and with clear understanding of the concept. Yeah, so this is one of the dataset that I came across. Now, the next dataset is the MedMNIST dataset, and this has been a lightweight AutoML benchmark for medical image analysis. Now, in medical image analysis, analyzing multiple datasets with the different modalities, and modalities here mean different modes in which the experiment or the test was conducted. So, with different modalities, it becomes very difficult as the datasets are generally non-standard. On the other hand, although deep learning has been dominating the research and application in medical image analysis, it consumes a large amount of time, engineering labor to tune those deep learning models. As a result, AutoML becomes increasingly important. So, MedMNIST is basically the dataset that is a collection of 10 pre-processed medical image datasets with the Creative Commons license. And it is designed to be educational, standardized, diverse, and lightweight, which could be used as a rapid prototyping playground and a multi-model machine learning AutoML benchmark in the medical image analysis. So the dataset is standardized to perform classification tasks on lightweight 28 cross 28 images, which requires no background knowledge, of course. And MedMNIST could be used for educational purposes. So just like we have been using the MNIST dataset or the Fashion MNIST dataset on similar grounds, the MedMNIST dataset provides those features for medical image analysis. Now, the dataset evaluation code and the baseline methods of MedMNIST are publicly available via their GitHub repository. So this is the repository where they have covered everything, the documentation, how to run the experiments, citations as well. So that's pretty interesting, and they've given some information about the 10 datasets that are there. So path MNIST, chest MNIST, derma MNIST, organ, breast, retina, so on and so forth. So you should definitely check out this dataset and try to run your models. So they've given some performance analysis over here for some of the very popular models, and you should definitely check out download the dataset and run your models, your computer vision models on this particular dataset. And one opportunity that I would like to tell you about is that you can raise a pull request with some tutorials or something like that. It's always a great opportunity to contribute to open source and raise some PRs with some tutorials, write blog posts, and create something using the dataset. So this brings us to the second half of the video, where I'm going to share with you what I'm learning these days and how I'm learning those concepts. So basically, I am spending a lot of my time with this book called Deep Learning for Coders with FastAI and PyTorch. It's written by Jeremy Howard and Sylvain Gageux. Both of them created this library called FastAI. And it's an easy to follow guide for people who are comfortable writing Python code. And the first library to provide consistent interface to the most frequently used deep learning applications. So that basically is the FastAI library. I've also written a blog post on how to build deep learning projects with FastAI, and it really helps you get going with the model training to deployment once you are there. So you should definitely check out this blog, follow it step by step. It covers pretty much right from the beginning how you are going to download the data from Microsoft Azure APIs and then clean it, look at a few attributes of those images, then converting the downloaded data into data loader objects. It covers a few basics of the FastAI library. and then you are doing some data augmentation techniques, adding some transformations to those images, and then model training, data cleaning, and at the end I have also covered a few steps on exporting the model and deploying it through different ways. One is that you can use the Flask API, create a Flask API and then deploy it, or you can build an application out of your Jupyter Notebook as well. For that as well, I have you can use Voila, or you can use some other tool out there. So yeah, this blog pretty much covers the basic part of it, like how you can go about training a model and then deploying it. Coming back to the book is intended to help out programmers achieve impressive results in deep learning, and you only need little mathematics background. So that is basically you should be familiar with linear algebra and basic calculus, and it covers the fundamentals of the deep learning algorithms and explains how they're working. So they've provided plenty of good in-depth examples to explain how to train a model on a wide range of tasks using the two libraries FastAI and PyTorch. And Jeremy Howard is a data scientist. Basically, he's a researcher, developer, educator, and entrepreneur. So he's a founding researcher at FastAI, and FastAI is basically a research institute dedicated to making deep learning more accessible. And Sylvan Gugger is the other author, who is a research engineer at Hugging Face, a company focusing in making the newest NLP models as easy to use as possible. And previously he was a research scientist at FastAI. But yeah, so the book is basically a must buy for people who uh, want a step by step guide to get a good grip over training deep learning algorithms to solve problems in a wide range of fields and also achieve impressive results with the little mathematical background, and smaller amount of data, and also just write minimal code using the FastAI library the way it has been structured. So definitely a must buy. I am really loving it as I'm going through it. So yeah, this is one of the books. Now, one course that I have come across and would love to go through is the Jan LeCun's deep learning course provided by NYU Center for Data Science. Now, this course is for people who have already started their journey in the field of data science and are familiar with machine learning. So they have also provided an intro to data science course or the graduate level machine learning course that they want you to first complete before you get down to these lecture notes from the Jan LeCun's deep learning course. And the course curriculum is broken down into weeks. As you can see, it's a 15-week course with the slides, Jupyter notebooks, and YouTube videos. And as you can see, all of these are basically divided into lectures. So this is basically the overview, the outline of what's going to be covered in that week, and then you have the motivation, then introduction to gradient descent. So the course gives you a deep dive into the latest techniques in deep learning and representation learning, focusing on supervised and unsupervised deep learning, embedding methods, metric learning, convolutional and recurrent neural nets with applications to computer vision, natural language processing, and speech recognition. So this is the GitHub course is basically the lecture notes. So all of these that you see, these are lecture notes written by students who attended the lecture at NYU, and there might be a few language errors because this is notes by 130 students. And and if you want to correct something or report something, you can raise a PR to on this GitHub repository. of this particular course. Also, you might need to get a calculus primer before, because these notes use a lot of mathematical notation to explain how the algorithms are working, and there are a lot of calculus notation, there are a lot of vector notations, Greek notation for summation, mean, eta, and partial derivatives, and all of those things. So besides the notes, you also have access to the competition, homework, and different slides from the lecture itself. And this whole course has been in the news for a while now, that it's been made free and all of those things. And understanding the concepts from Jan LeCun's lecture notes and slides should be worth completing. So this is what I'm looking forward to, and I definitely want to cover, like, at least skim through all the lecture notes and see his methodology and his take on deep learning. At the end, I would like to share with you two research papers that would be worth your time. The first one is on using transformers for image recognition tasks, as can be inferred from this title over here, transformers for image recognition at scale. So the paper is written on the work of researchers and engineers in the Google Research Brain team, and they have tried to exploit the scalability of transformers and applied them directly to images with the fewest possible modifications. So they have explained how they split the dataset, train the models on datasets like ImageNet, and they have yielded decent accuracies of a few percentage points below models like ResNets of comparable size. So they've shared where transformers lack in comparison with the CNN, and they have also provided their whole architecture. This is under review right now. So they propose that this is the vision transformer model, which can be applied to imaged datasets and can be used for those image recognition tasks. And what they did was they claim that when the dataset is huge, in the ballpark of 14 million to 300 million images, the vision transformer attains excellent results. And they have set up experiments with different data sets, different model variants, different training parameters and fine tunings. And they ran this experiment where they first trained the vision transformer models on data sets of increasing size, that is ImageNet, ImageNet 21, JFT 300 million. So optimized the regularization parameters, and then they compared the CNN models with the vision transformer models, and found out that the CNN, as you can see in this left chart over here, so the CNN is the BIT model, and the VIT large is this one, which is trained. So these are data sets in increasing size. ImageNet is slightly smaller size data sets, and then we have 21K ImageNet, and then GFT 300 million. So when it's about a smaller data set, when they ran the experiment on a smaller data set like ImageNet, they found out that CNN outperformed vision transformers on ImageNet. But with larger datasets like GFT 300 million, you can see that vision transformer overtakes CNNs. So you should definitely check out this paper to deep dive into their findings. They've done some incredible work over here and some insane results as well, applying transformers for image recognition tasks. Now, the second research paper is on the impact of deep learning revolution and its implication for computer architecture and chip design. And the paper is written by Jeffrey Dean. He is the person who heads the Google AI team, the Google research team. So this paper is a companion paper to keynote talk at the 2020 International Solid State Circuits Conference, which is the full form of ISSCC, and it discusses some of the advances in machine learning and their implications on the kinds of computational devices we need to build. So this is more of a general reading that I picked up to understand system requirements and areas of development for deep learning to build more computational intensive hardware architecture. So, for example, the paper covers why deep learning models need specialized hardware. So I learned that, and deep learning models have basically three properties that make them different than many of the other kinds of more general purpose computations. For example, first, they are very tolerant of reduced precision computations. Secondly, the computations performed by most models are simply different compositions of relatively small handful of operations like matrix multiplications, vector operations, convolutional kernels, and then other dense linear algebra calculations that we have to perform. And thirdly, the third reason why we need machine learning specialized hardware is that many of the mechanisms developed over the past 40 years to enable general purpose programs to run with high performance, high efficiency on modern CPUs is no more needed, is unnecessary for machine learning computations. So the TLB subsystems are totally unnecessary. So do give this paper a read if you are someone who would enjoy the amalgamation of deep learning and computational hardware design. So one more thing that I wanted to talk about is that recently I came across this ML Reproducibility Challenge 2020, where you are required to select a research paper from a list that they provide, which contains research paper from different domains, and you have to verify and reproduce the findings of the work that is explained in that research paper. So I'm a little late in learning about this particular challenge, as it kicked off on September 23rd, and the early submission date is also on 4th December. So yeah, we might not be able to submit something worthy, but this is definitely a challenge that I would want to participate in, as I have recently picked up this habit of learning and reading a lot of research papers, and the best way to read or go through a research paper is to be able to reproduce the results that are being talked about in it. So yeah, and the challenge itself promotes publishing and sharing of scientific work that is reproducible and reliable. The organizing committee is it comprises of people who are from the FAIR organization and from McGill University, Brown University, and it's definitely something that I would love to participate in and love to do, as I also or keep talking about reproducing the work that's there. It's probably the best way, and it also investigates what others are doing in the field. So do check out the website. I've added all the links, all of the research papers, blogs, courses, everything in the description below. So after going through all of these resources, one thing that we can surely make out is that the deep learning world is making advances at a very fast pace, and we are living in very interesting times. We have a lot of opportunities that are there to be grabbed, and you know uh, if you found any of these resources useful, don't just lose that motivation over time. Just start doing something about it. If you found the data set very useful, very interesting, very intriguing, go ahead, start exploring it. If you found those books interesting, start reading them, start following them, start writing those code which is there inside of those books. And then if let's say the research paper that we talked about, if you found those research papers intriguing, go ahead and try to reproduce some part of it. Maybe you will go on to click on some other research paper from there on, and you'll basically become a better version of yourself each day passing, following the lead, one thing lead on to another, and it will turn out to be a better you. So if you were able to draw even a hint of motivation, to get started with this deep learning world, or if you've already started and you want to like explore new directions, yeah, do give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, help us grow. And yeah, if you have come across some new resources yourself, do post that in the comment section below, and maybe we can include them in the upcoming videos. So stay tuned up until our next one, and yeah, keep learning data science with Harshit.